and welcome once again to this D2C Dialogues, where we talk to accomplished D2C founders, understand their journeys, and see that what challenges they are facing and how they have overcome those challenges to make their venture successful, and what are their future visions and how do they want to take their venture forward. So today we have a very accomplished entrepreneur, Ananya Agarwal. She started her company Nyumi in 2019. She's a CEO and the founder, and she has done her engineering in material science from All-in College of Engineering. And by the way, she was the first Indian student to go to that institute. She's also done her MBA from Harvard Business School, and she has worked with organizations like Microsoft, Headspace, and others, and then she started. So, not taking much time, I would just like to, start right away asking the question, Ananya, that it's been a, 5 year journey, right? And so, what do you think are your key values and principles which you think have helped you succeed in your entrepreneurial journey?
100%. Thank you, Ved. So essentially, it's been a 4 year journey for us so far, of which the first 2 years we spent entirely on product development. And we launched our product. So we brought Nyumi to market only in June of 2021. And I would say that was actually a very, very key factor in our success, is that as a brand, we have really invested in building out the product, the brand, before we brought it to consumers. Because especially with, D2C, I think you see things across the board here. And that is something that we have seen has served our consumers also really well, because as a product today, we have 3 multivitamins. So we have Happy Hair Gummies, we have Radiant Skin Gummies, and we have Beauty Sleep Gummies. And each of these is something where we ended up blending Indian and Western ingredients together for. And you see that they're very effective as products. So at the core of everything that we are doing, we started off with a product that we knew would deliver consumers results. And because consumers are starting to see these results, we see that they continue to come back to us. So compared to many other brands, not only, obviously getting consumers to try products for the first time has been a journey. And today it's much easier for us, than it was 1.5 years ago. It feels like the market itself has changed so much for us as people have become more aware. But the biggest thing that we have going for us is the fact that you have so many consumers coming back to rebuy. So on average, every consumer comes back and buys more than one product. We have double the retention of most other brands in our category. And that is something that I would say is our strongest suit. Apart from that, we've obviously been doing things to really build out a very clear brand, where the brand thesis has been clear from the beginning, where we are striving to be this everyday wellness player for women. And we build our content accordingly, our product accordingly. And you see those brand values be consistent across everything that we do. This notion of being credible, caring, vivacious. And so having those, the product thesis clear and the brand thesis clear, and building that across the board is a big contributing factor for us.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, as I say, in all these dialogues that, all entrepreneurs are successful entrepreneurs. Only thing is that their stage of success are different. So I'm sure. So as I was asking earlier, what do you think are the core principles and values? Because as you said, was not easy to get that product market fit and get the consumer to start using their. So what made you stuck around, and what were those key attributes and your personal character traits which help you, because I want other entrepreneurs who are watching to understand all that.
So I would say for us, honestly, there's 3 main things that probably keep you sticking to the journey, right? At the top level, it's the mission. So for us, we entered this space because we realized that 70% of urban Indian women are nutrient deficient. And if you're nutrient deficient, often people don't realize, right? But if you are feeling weak, you have low energy, or if you have hair fall, or Sometimes you might even have other, like, skin issues, other health issues. A lot of it has to do with nutrient deficiency. So we realize that, look, if this exists, and multivitamins is not a complicated problem. Like, yes, there's a lot of better solutions you can do, but most people were not consuming multivitamins even though they existed on the market. So we're like, how do we get women to actually solve for this nutrient deficiency? And that is my North Star. So, coming back to that and being reminded of this overall vision that we're trying to help women perform at their best every day is something that keeps me going. The second thing is, every so often you'll have either consumers come up to us personally or send us these testimonials about how much the product has helped us. Most recently, I had this one lady who came in, she literally held her hair in her hand and she was showing me, she's like, I could not grow my hair. Today I have this ponytail thanks to you. And I've taken your gummies for 18 months straight. She's been taking them every single month on month, right? And it's these, and similarly, we've had people come up who said, I couldn't sleep for months. And I slept sound for the first time after I've taken your gummies. So stories like this is what keeps you going through a lot of those like difficult moments, and just reminding you that there is a lot of impact that you're delivering in the world. And then I would say the third thing is honestly my team, because when we started it was a much smaller team. Today we're a team of about 21 people, and that energy and I think the excitement, the ideas that the team brings in, and even their own commitment to this cause is something that pulls you up on days when things feel very difficult. So I would say these three combined is really what keeps us going day in and day out to deliver the vision that we want.
No, absolutely. So purpose and impact is
Yeah.
what drives you. I agree. So this brings to my next question, where you're talking about the team. So startup founders find it very difficult to attract a team. Okay. So what do you think made Nyumi attract the kind of talent you have? Because you are all what your team is. So can you give the aspirational founders idea on how to attract good talent?
Yes. So I would say, honestly, first, I feel very lucky to have the team that we do have. I would say for us, one thing we were clear on from the beginning is that we want to invest in the right people for our team. We're happy to have people, we want to invest in people who have high potential. Yes, it is important to have some kind of past experience in the category, but I would rather that you come in with higher potential than more experience. And that is something that we've done from the beginning. So some of, like, the average age of our team is 25, where we have some people, late 30s, a few, one, two in their 40s, but really a lot of my team is like early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s. And that is where a lot of the fresh ideas also come from. As a team, I think what has helped us is that our leadership team is very strong. So our head of marketing and growth is somebody who also she went to IIM Ahmedabad, very strong growth, D2C experience. And that is something I think when people interview and they see a leadership team that they believe in, that helps bring people on board. And the second thing honestly does come back to our vision and our mission, where a lot of people want to focus and want to work at a company where they feel like they're delivering purpose, and especially if it aligns with being I think in many ways we are probably like an exciting D2C brand with the kind of brand we built. So they see all of that and they see purpose. So both those two collectively is something that attracts people. And then last is, and not least, right, is the fact that we really believe in doing everything in house. So the two things that we do 100% in house is product development and marketing. So this means everything in my brand, design, performance marketing, social media, all of that. So when a lot of people, they want to work brand side and they want to work in a place where they can own it end to end, rather than them feel like they are here but the founding team is turning to an agency or some other expert. So the fact that people get a lot of ownership over their work here is also something I think that has helped us attract the right talent.
Correct. So, the takeaway from this for the D2C founders and other entrepreneurs is that at early age, you will only get talent because of your purpose and the passion and the vision and the mission, right? If you can, tell those guys. And of course, the other part was a sense of ownership and growth perspective, So, I mean, you can only attract IIMs or, very, very good guys, not because of money. I mean, obviously, startups can't pay that much, right?
Mhm.
So they'll come, they'll join you only when you show that passion and purpose on what you're doing. And I think it's a great, great purpose what you have taken now.
Thank you,
So
Ved.
tell me something that, how do you, and for me, there's no work-life balance, okay? Life is life. You can't compartmentalize it into various things. But still, you have your professional responsibilities and your personal responsibilities. So how do you straddle between those?
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, that's probably the hardest thing, right? I would say, and honestly, even at the core of Nyumi, like we've built Nyumi to try and bring a little bit more balance into people's lives. That is the purpose of it. But the reality of it, and even if you see our logo, you'll see this, the left circle is an imperfect circle showing imbalance, and the right side is this perfect circle showing that this is the balance we are striving for. And so it's this constant struggle between the two for me also, where I would say there are times, I mean, there are times where I probably only breathe work. Wake up in the morning, start work, till the night, try and switch off, maybe for an hour or so every day. But I think the way I try and really, really try and build a bit of balance is try and one thing I do is wake up early. So I wake up by around 5:36, and then I find that that first 1 hour, or especially that first 1 hour of how I spend my day, enables me to bring that center back in my life, right? So I'll meditate in the morning, I'll go for a swim. And the days when I have meditated and I swim, life feels like a breeze, no matter how difficult that day is, because I carved out that half an hour, 45 minutes for myself where I wasn't just thinking about new me 24/7. And it lets me be a lot more productive once I'm back at work also. So that is, I would say that 45 minutes is what I try and take out for myself every day. And then evenings, there will be times where work will get busier, times when work, we try and make it lighter. But from a team perspective, what we try and do, right, is we, especially because we are building a wellness brand, we try and encourage our team to leave office by about 6:30, between 6:30. So some people might stay later. People might go back, log in, do a little bit of work later, but try and at least create that one boundary. So people are forced to take a little bit more time, at least in the evenings for themselves and weekends, unless something is very critical. Do try and hold that as something that's sacrosanct for people. But it's harder for me as a founder to do, but definitely try and build that balance for the team. And I try that I'm not sending people urgent emails on the weekend, because if someone gets an email from me, they'll feel compelled to reply at that time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, 4 years is a long journey, and what you have achieved is, through obviously, I mean, I can quote somebody saying that, you only grew through struggles. So, so I'm sure there would have been certain challenges, and which you would have overcome. So, for our startups who are watching and D2C founders,
Mm-hmm.
just there would have been some learnings. So, would you want to share some learnings with them?
Yes, of course. So I would say, honestly, one of the biggest learnings, right, for me was, I mean, as a founder, especially early stage, the one number I remember, like on my computer also, right, I'd always have a Shopify dashboard open on one side where every day I was like tracking that revenue, almost like hourly, if not daily, was like definitely a thing, right? But you realize to some degree, when you are looking at things so closely every day, it's impossible to, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's very, very hard. It's very hard for your brand to grow daily, or for you to look at, to find faults if you're looking, and find issues if you are saying what are those things that are going wrong daily, or why is revenue down today or not. So I think forcing myself to sometimes step back and say, look, I'll only look at results on a weekly basis. or sometimes, bi-weekly, and then look at things concretely, made a major, major difference. Not just from being able to recognize what was working, what isn't, because that's actually enough time to start seeing trends, that is, are certain offers working, are certain days of the week performing better for us. But even from like my team perspective, if I am stressed on a day-to-day basis with revenue, the team cannot relax either. So that one level of stepping away from me, I felt, is really what allowed the brand to scale, because then people could try more individually within the week, within 2 week spans themselves, and then they come back to me, right? Versus me trying to troubleshoot at every perspective. So that was a big learning where we actively, changed the way we were behaving. And this also applies to social media, because all algorithms, everything takes time. So you have to let it run for some time and almost like believe in the process of what you are doing and continue it before you're starting to change. Then the second thing I would say is that, like no matter how incredible of a brand or product you have, everything takes a little bit of time. So there were some of the same things that I was doing for my first year of like sales versus this past second year. But as soon as we hit that 1 year mark, suddenly I started seeing that S-shaped curve that all of us want to see. And obviously, there were things we started doing right from a brand perspective, marketing, and things were coming together. But part of it was just time, because the brand became something consumers became more familiar with. The same person who saw the brand 6 months ago is now seeing it later. It's more familiar to them. So you have to have patience. Um, it's really, really hard to have that. And in some ways, like it's a forcing function for all of us that, with time that happens. But that was a big learning also. And I'd say another recent learning I've had with, it's more with the team, but it's about also knowing when to look away, because as founders sometimes we are so much of perfectionists that you can look at something with a much closer eye than anybody else can. But it's important to focus on the few things that really matter than to be part of all different aspects of the business. And that is something that's still a learning journey for me, but something that I'm actively trying to do.
Wonderful. So when you were saying that, I was thinking of Krishna in Gita. So, and that is true for because if you're too focused on the results, you are stressed up, and then you will probably not do what you are supposed to do in the best of your capabilities. So I mean, uh, so I mean, my takeaway and which I want to share with all the founders is that obviously you have a goal, you have a target, and you have to move ahead and just focus on doing right things, right? As Ananya said, doing your strategies right, doing your execution right, doing your, and don't bother about the results much, because that will stress you up, that will stress the team up, and then obviously you'll end up doing suboptimum result, and it becomes a spiral. So before I bring in Amisha, I would like to quickly ask you, in terms of why D2C. When you thought about the product, you put so much of years and time into developing it. For example, so this will help the viewers understand that what is the advantage of going the way.
Yeah. So, see, for us, I would say D2C for two reasons, right? One, for me, fundamentally, this was a completely new product category we were building out. So, like I said, on one hand, you'd see 70% of urban Indian women were nutrient deficient. Yet, if you looked in the market, you could almost like even argue that you don't need another brand, because you had so many pharmaceutical brands doing multivitamins. But the truth is that consumers, there was still this huge disconnect where they couldn't go into a store, understand what a multivitamin is. Even if you go into a pharmacy, you ask them, what do I need for sleep? The pharmacist cannot explain what, the difference between 3 or 4 different sleeping aids, which melatonin dosage you need or what you don't need, because you don't have that kind of consumer education across all different multivitamins. So we realized that in this category, because there was two things to be done, right? One was a lot of consumer education around why you need multivitamins, why nutrition is important, and building that education, that we had to invest in that as a brand. And that is something you can really do well on D2C, because you can try it through obviously like human content, text, like lovely creatives, all of that, right? Like D2C opens up this whole universe to consumers that you can touch wherever you want to. So that it allowed us to do that education. And then the second part is, as a brand, we were also really breaking through this whole clutter where today, if you look at the West and you look at the East, consumers would just go into supermarkets and they buy a multivitamin themselves. In India, people were relying on doctors to prescribe it to them. And regardless of how effective a product is, if you're relying on those two, three other steps, people are just not going to buy it as easily. So we wanted to build a brand that felt very that was credible, but it felt very approachable. So it almost feels like a lifestyle product to you. And that was something that D2C really enabled us to do, right? To like, where it lets you bring your brand to life in a way that offline, like no matter how much your product shines offline, it's one little spot versus how you can really highlight it and bring that to life, which is why we really wanted to go the whole D2C route. And I mean, and I think once you enter this universe, it's just like, it's incredible, right? To see, like, I mean, you see new brands probably launching every week. You see, I think you also see consumers that are so open to trying something new. We see the majority of our consumers are a first time supplement user. And things like this you could never build if you're not building a D2C first brand.
Correct. So, entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs was starting up. What takeaways that when you do, so it's category wise also, but so this category probably needed a D2C approach. And also, I think, which I can understand from this discussion, is that D2C approach gives you a lot of leeway to experiment. So you don't have costly mistakes, right? Because if you open up a store and then in a certain location and you stack it up and then things don't work out, it's a very very expensive experiment. But in D2C you can actually keep on trying. As I always say, that there are no failures; they're all feedbacks. So when you so taking feedback in a D2C is very fast, and you can actually go back to the market multiple times in a very short. And of course, the categories, the demand of the category. So I mean, depending on what you're wanting to launch or what you are running, D2C is that way advantageous.
Yes. And to add to that, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of feedback you get real time from your consumers, because you can test different messaging. You know what is resonating with people, what isn't. So it gives you a lot of data around your brand, your products, and allows you to build a lot more effectively in a way that offline just can't. Because what consumers say to you is different than what their actions denote, right? If someone is not clicking on my product and not buying, it says a lot more than someone telling me in store, no, I like your product, but eventually buying or not buying it.
Correct. Correct. So here I would like to bring in Amisha, and she will talk to you about how difficult it was to build the trust in the consumer and various other questions on the product.
As sir already said, that I'm going to ask you about the brand awareness and how do you maintain the consumer trust. But before that, I would like to ask the basic question that everybody wants to know, that like, how do Nyumi power gummies are different from other health supplements on the market?
Yeah. So for us, there's a few biggest differentiators. Number one is our formulation. So all of our products are built in-house. We develop them with a German pharmacist team, Indian nutritionists, as well as our own R&D team in-house, where we blend Indian nutrients with Western ingredients. So for example, my skin gummies, my Radiant Skin gummies, have your curcumin, which is your haldi, your turmeric in it, along with something like a hyaluronic acid, which we know is great to retain moisture. And then it has all your other basic vitamins like your A, C, E, D, zinc, selenium. So in these ways, the Nyumi multivitamins are a much more complete solution compared to anything else that you see, because usually you see brands follow one school of thought or the other, never blend both. And then the second part is that from a flavor perspective also, we've really focused on making sure that the flavors is something where we import a lot of our flavors from Germany to make sure that you're using natural ingredients. So you see a very big difference where it's not about it just being nicer than a tablet, but it's something that actually tastes delicious for consumers to have on a day-to-day basis. And then last but not least, we really focus on quality. So we source ingredients from 7 different countries to make sure that the product is very efficacious. So we find the best agave root, which comes from Germany, L-theanine comes from Germany. And in these ways, we've really tried to source the best ingredient from everywhere to make sure the product is that much more effective than anything else that you're finding.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
So now let's come to the main question basically. Because see, there's a lot of brands in the market, as we talked earlier, right? So can you tell me how do you manage to build the consumer trust? As we can see, there's so many brands that claims to have completely vegan products, and yet they put some ingredient as natural. Like you get, gelatin, caramine, glycerin, collagen, and a lot of ingredients like that, right? But they are not actually natural, or is it, right? We know it, but customer, they fool customers that it's natural because, so can you tell me how do you manage, because customers are always, already getting little aware about the products, so they know about these terms now. So how do you manage all this and everything? Tell us about it.
Honestly, that was probably one of our biggest, that was something that's been very important to us from the beginning. And, as a brand, our 3 cornerstones are being credible, caring, vivacious. And credible and caring come from this place where you are saying that we want to make sure we are looking out for consumers so they don't have to, right? And we have no fine print, is what we say in any of our products. So if you go to our website, you see that on the main product pages, we not only highlight, obviously, we highlight all the active ingredients we have, but we actually highlight every single inactive ingredient we have. Because, for example, when you're building gummies, you need something for sweetness. So we talk about why we've kept sugar in. We need citric acid to help balance flavor or pH, and also why are we putting that in. So in that way, we've talked about every single ingredient. So we are 100% transparent to consumers about what we're putting in and why we're adding that ingredient. Because it's not only that consumers are becoming more aware, but as a wellness brand, it's our duty to be transparent with consumers, teach them why a certain ingredients is being added, why it's not. And we also built this brand because there were no other clean products on the market. For me personally, I'd gone through this whole journey where I thought I had high thyroid. And I got diagnosed with high thyroid, but turns out I didn't have high thyroid, but the vitamin supplement I was taking was overdosed with biotin. And I didn't know that could interfere with test results. You see a lot of cases like this, which is why we have been extra careful. And for us, what we do there is one at a factory level. So, one at a raw material level, we vet every single raw material supplier that our manufacturer is getting ingredients from. So, we check all of those raw material data sheets, look for certified suppliers wherever possible. Then we also have a tri-party agreement where we have a German company responsible for quality control. Also, our own partners are very particular. It's a US FDA registered facility. So we know the quality is something where there's no compromises. And then we do our own checks where we run it for third-party lab testing, etc., to make sure that there's no compromises there whatsoever. Because we really believe in only good choices, no compromises.
So we can say that this product is like really close to you, because you somehow managed this, somehow you face this from yourself as well, because of
Yes,
the other ingredient, right? Okay.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, as you said that you see that your all the customers come back to you. So
Mhm.
what is the percentage of repeated customers?
Yeah. So we have about 25% of consumers who come back to us to rebuy a second time. And we also see, and there's probably additional consumers who then go to an Amazon or other marketplaces to buy, but we can't track that directly on our own website. And we also see consumers buying not just one product their first time, but most consumers are buying more than one product, even in their first purchase itself.
Okay, so now let's do our question about how do you see Nyumi power gummies evolving and growing in the future?
Yeah. So in terms of Nyumi, right? So for Nyumi, so gummies is one product that we do. And today, so our overall vision is really to partner with women and be an everyday wellness partner for them, right from when they're a teen through fertility, pregnancy, menopause, postmenopause, and that entire life journey. And there will be some things that are life stage dependent and some things that are more general, like sleep is something that can be at any stage of your life. So for us, we see gummies as one solution because gummies is the sweet spot where you're able to pack in enough nutrients, but it's also delicious, right? And we really believe in delicious nutrition because there's no point giving people a product that they will not be consuming and just put in their cabinets after 1 2 doses. But we are not limiting ourselves to gummies. We are looking at multiple other form factors depending on what is most effective for each of the different solutions that we are building out. So with time, you'll see a range of Numi products launch, very fixated on specific problems that we are trying to solve, but everything that is delicious because we really believe in that, and we really believe that nutrition should not be a tough pill to swallow.
Okay, so I will come to my last question. Can you tell me about your year-on-year growth you had this financial year and you're planning to have uh, the next financial year?
Yeah. So this financial year, we grew 500%. So it was a very exciting year for us. We also, in this past year, we had launched a brand campaign with Kriti Sanon, which really helped us build a lot of awareness. And ultimately, the credibility of the brand is something that converted to grow that. And next year, we're looking at growth of about 7x is
Wow.
what we're targeting for next financial year.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ananya. It was lovely talking to you and all the best. And I would like to ask Ved sir to come back, join for the rest of the interview. Thank you, Ananya.
Thanks, Amisha. That was wonderful. So we come to the fag end of the talk. So two questions I'll ask you, Ananya. First is that Amisha asked you about the numbers for the next year and stuff like that. But from at a macro perspective, because you have a large purpose which will take years to realize. But yes, there would be milestones, and so what is the next year? What you want to achieve, and what will take you there?
So there's a couple of things, right? What we realize as a brand is that when it comes to wellness, even though gummies or something that's delicious is reminding you to take the product much more than a tablet does, we still need to be much more front of mind in the mind of consumers. So while initially we were really focused on product and we would see content and community as something that was a byproduct of it, now we are equally focused on really building out that content and community, that if somebody wants to look for any kind of wellness content, they're coming to Nyumi first. And some things will be under Nyumi handle, some things are across other areas. But how do we become that wellness super house, right, for people to turn to? So we believe that that is going to be one critical factor in enabling people to be reminded of their products and continue to take it. The second part is really about helping people build consistency in their usage, because even if consumers come back once or twice, the truth is that all supplements take time to show results. And how do we make sure that not just 25%, but 50, then 60, then 70% of our consumers are coming back month on month to rebuy? Because ultimately that is the only time you'll see efficacy. It's like exercise or anything, right? You can't do it for a few days. You have to do it regularly to see benefits. So I would say retention is a big thing that we are looking at. And then a big part, right, overall in this whole category is about consumer education. Every time a new brand launches, they launch new products. It helps because any brand that is bringing a new consumer to the fold is now starting to look at multivitamins and nutraceuticals much more closely. So I think a lot of it is about just wellness education, nutraceutical education, that not just we as a brand will do, but all brands come together to really build out the category, which will then just increase the size of ready consumers for all of us.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So coming to the last part, I'm sure you would be looking at a ESG strategy, right? So what is your ESG strategy as of now, and how do you plan to evolve it when when the company grows and scales?
Yeah. So a couple of different parts here, right? So one is, I think, entirely on the whole environment side, right? On the ESG. And I would say there, I think one thing that as a brand we hate is the fact that we have to package each of our gummies in plastic. We would we would never want to do that, but because of the Indian climates, it is required to ensure that the efficacy of the vitamin stays and it doesn't dilute with time. So to make up for that, what we do is we recycle more plastic than we use. So we are plastic neutral and slash plastic positive from that perspective. So things like that we do as the minimum when it comes to thinking about that whole usage, and we're investing in a lot to see can we use I think also pushing, I think, the whole food industry in India to enable people to use recycled plastic for food, which today is not permitted by the government. So how can we move further there? And then from a whole safety governance perspective, right, that is something that we've been very strict on from day one. It's not something that we're aspiring to, but something that we have no compromises or anything on from the beginning. So, for example, all of my finance and accounting is done by KPMG. Similarly, at our whole factory levels, right, we ensure that there is very strong compliance that is there from the beginning. So, those are just measures where we have no tolerance for not aspiring to the highest degrees possible. And then what we are doing further is looking at more external certifications, so looking at things that are not just about simple things about at an ingredient level, but even things that show that we care about the double bottom line and that we are creating impact. How do we really measure those? Those are things that we are actively looking at, and we'll close this next year.
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Carry on doing your karma and be on the path of the purpose you have chosen. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much for talking to us today. It was really incredible. Thank you. And I'm sure our viewers would have taken away some nuggets of wisdom from the experience.
Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you, Ananya. Thank you.